Hello, and welcome to the day that hope died. My name is Ebube, and you are listening to Popcorn for Dinner. Today, you know what? Stop the music. Honestly, I can't with these people. I actually can't with these people. We get one good guy from a line of actual pricks. 200 years of selfish, neglectful, dragon-riding idiots that do nothing but burn everything in their wake. And somehow they spawn a guy who is actually kind, actually just, actually wise, and actually honorable. And he doesn't last 5 episodes? 5 episodes on TV. This is television. Ira Parker, listen, man. This one's for you. You're doing a good job, but don't play with me. Do not play with me. Okay? And Ryan, wherever you are, listen. Obviously, there's a lot to discuss today.
Yeah.
Obviously, feelings are being felt. Having said that, though, I very much enjoyed this episode. And the fact that I feel this way is proof of very solid writing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because I'm done talking for now, Afam and Soonen, please walk in.
Hey man, R.I.P to a real one, bro. R.I.P to a real one, man. The realest Targaryen that we've ever seen.
It doesn't make
R.I.P to
sense.
them.
It doesn't
Yeah,
make
I know.
sense. Look, okay. I have been a student of Targaryen history for a long time. Okay. When Game of Thrones was still in its early stages and people were talking about, oh, we love the Starks, we love the Lannisters, you know, go Robb Stark, da-da-da-da-da. I was like, these dragon people are kind of interesting, okay? So I went and I looked them up and I just started reading some stuff about them. I didn't want to spoil things for myself, so I didn't really look into the Game of Thrones story. I looked into the stuff that George R.R. Martin had said about the past. And that was really interesting stuff. And I learned a lot about certain characters, including people like Arion. And I learned about a certain guy who was said to have been a person that would have turned the entire dynasty around, a person that people loved, a prince that was worthy of his title, and they called him Baylor Breakspear because in addition to being all those things, he was actually formidable. He could fight. He was tested. He was proven. And then somehow he died and nothing was ever the same. So I knew this guy was not going to survive. I knew he was not going to last forever. I just didn't know it was like this in this event for this reason.
Yeah.
If I get my hands on that nigga Arion.
I think Dunk already got his hands on him,
just
man.
this idea of, I withdraw my, like, think about how we got here.
Yeah.
You were sent on a PR campaign and you decided to terrorize the people that you were supposed to impress. You got caught, one of them decides to kick your ass because you're weak. You're weak. After that, you demand his head. You can't have his head. They say fight him. Okay, no problem. You can't fight him. You call like some ancient custom of like, you didn't even know what you were doing. 7 on 7, right? Because your own life is not disposable. Like, this is insane. And I love how this is a commentary on class warfare.
Because it absolutely
genuinely,
is.
What do you mean trial of 7? It's like, oh yeah, like some guy vaguely annoyed me. Let's get 14 people to fight to the death. What?
Yep.
My goodness. Yeah, honestly.
I blame Viserys for all of this.
You know what?
Who'd you blame?
This time I'm not going to stop you. I'm not even going to stop you. I'm not even going to stop
you.
Viserys have to do with it. But honestly, yeah, I think, you know, it's important to remember we still live in the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. Actions have consequences. Honor has consequences. Doing the right thing has a cost. It always does.
Even on this level, though, this
yes,
is the most untouchable person. I don't know if people are aware of this, but this guy is not just the heir to the throne. He's not
He's the
just
hand of the
loved.
king.
He's also the hand of the king. He's the second most powerful person in the
Yes.
realm. Like, this guy is everything. He's literally
Absolutely.
everything.
I think, if we're getting into it, like, let's get into it. I think one thing to consider there is how it happened, right? So we're getting into it, right? During the battle, if you notice, there was a period of time where Micah or Makar, depending on how you pronounce it, was fighting someone.
Yes.
And he sees Dunk putting BTA to Arion.
As he should.
As he should. And he tries to run towards him. He, attacks Persia, tries to run towards him.
My boy, yeah.
I think that's where it happened. And you also have to consider this came from someone. This came from our good friend, our famous King's Guard from House of the Dragon, who said, "What are you supposed to do when two members of the royal house are fighting? Who are you supposed to protect? They are both of the royal blood." So it was just an unfortunate scenario. You can't blame Micah for, trying to save his son. Like, you can see, despite all the looks he gives him, he still loves him. And you can also blame Baylor for standing up for what's right. The only person you can really blame here is Arion. So just an unfortunate scenario.
I blame him. You know what? Let's actually go through the fight choreography here. Just the order of events based on what we can see, right? So the first thing, of course, is the initial charge. Now, that initial charge, Dunk is obviously disoriented. Egg has to wake him up. He goes right in and is immediately stuck by Arion. Immediately.
Not just him. Egg also woke the horse up.
Exactly. That's true. So, yeah, that's actually very interesting because it's a callback to something very fun. And the fact that they can do that here, even in this tense moment, shows that they're not afraid to tell their story, right? Because they showed us in episode 3, Egg tried to tell this horse, you better move when it's time to move.
Exactly.
So the fact that the horse actually still had to be told is hilarious. So Dunk gets stabbed immediately with the lance. I'm over here shouting, don't take it out. But I guess he had to take it out because you can't be walking around with a projectile in your body. But okay, no problem. Next thing, Humphrey Harding immediately murked. Then immediately. I remember in episode 4 when he's like, as long as I can sit a horse, I can fight. And I remember thinking, are you sure about that? You know they're going to knock you off your horse, right? Immediately he was knocked off his horse. His legs are broken. Yeah, so he just straight up, he's gone. Humphrey Beesbury also did it last. Basically in the first charge, those two guys are gone. Next thing, Baylor brings down Makar from his horse. This is now after Dunk has fallen, right? As Dunk is getting up, somebody falls off their horse onto him. That's basically Baylor. Then Baylor brings out Makar from his horse. Then Dunk and Arion scuffle. After that, Raymond knocks Arion off of Dunk from his horse. As soon as he does that, he's hit by Stefan.
Yes.
And then Dunk and Arion sword fight. Dunk basically slices Arion in the crotch. Then Makar hits Baylor, right? The first time. Dunk collapses again. Then he gets up after Egg shouts and everything, and he pummels Arion. Then Raymond and Stefan are seen fighting each other. And Raymond is actually holding his own for somebody who was just sparring before. He's doing a fairly good job.
And he was in the beginning scene too. I went back and looked at that now, and I was like, wait a second. Like, he was kind of holding his own there too.
He really was. So from there, we see Baylor and Makar fighting again, right? And it is in that moment that we see Makar hit Baylor in the head. Now, at that point, Dunk drags Arion because Arion starts to say, I yield. And then he's like, no, you're not going to whisper this. Shouts tell him, takes him straight to Ashford, and he says, I withdraw my accusation through bloodied, gritted teeth. And after that, the horn's blown, it stops. Dunk collapses, he's caught by Raymond and Steelypate, and you can actually see in the corner of the screen his shield that was made for him by Tanzel broken in two.
Yeah.
Excellent visual imagery there. So there's a lot that happened in there, right? There's a lot we didn't see, but this is at the very least what the camera showed us in terms of the choreography, so we know what was going on. Meanwhile, by the way, through all this, you can kind of see Baratheon in the distance doing his own thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at what point did you guys think, I mean, obviously we kind of knew where this was going, but what moment in this entire choreography surprised you? Visually, narratively, like how they showed certain things. Obviously, the first one is the fact that Raymond was doing so well, right? That's not something that the book would have necessarily told us, but they showed this well here. What else kind of surprised you?
Honestly, I'm surprised that even that first stabbing, like when the lance went into him, to me, that's like, how are you still alive? Like,
Exactly.
you bleed out in no time. I'm like, bro,
it's insane. I was like, don't remove that thing. Don't remove. But they showed us though, because, and we'll get into the flashback, obviously. But I think that was one of the reasons for the flashback, because they showed him get stabbed in the leg. And on top of that stabbing, he's literally walking around, he's sleeping in the cold, it's getting infected, he's not eating, he's barely consuming any food. Then he starts following Arlan around for what could have been weeks. And he's just limping. Any regular person, like this is a child, right? Any regular person would not even be able to move. This guy's pain tolerance is so high that with an untreated stabbed leg, he's even able to play with swords. He's able to keep his strength for a while. He's able to walk around fields, hills, all kinds of things. And it was at that point, I think it was towards the end of the flashback that I started thinking, wait, this is them actually trying to show us, among other things, obviously, that this guy's pain tolerance, his endurance has been a thing from the jump. He's always been strong.
Yes.
And that kind of answers the question when we get back into it. When we get back into the fight, it's like, okay, this is how this guy can continue moving. Like with enough tenacity, obviously there's adrenaline and things like that, but with enough tenacity, there is so much that you can do. And that is impressive on a lot of levels.
Definitely. I think what surprised me about the battle is it was a pleasant surprise. I love how it was filmed. It sort of reminds me a little bit about, Battle of the Bastards and how that combat was filmed.
Yeah, but realistic.
But realistic, yes. Very Battle of the Bastards was a little stylized, Shane was a little, but
Jon Snow
this was
dodging
very
arrows
realistic.
like he's in a video game.
Yes, exactly. But this was realistic. It was bloody. It was on the ground. And you could kind of see how disorienting and confusing a battle situation can be. That was a pleasant surprise. And I really enjoyed it. And that pleasant surprise is how much they showed in the periphery. Like you mentioning the fact that Harding was struck down. You can see that. It's not clear, but you can see that.
You can actually see somebody hitting him like,
Yeah, exactly. Like you can see how much of the story is still happening while still being in Dunk's perspective. It was just such a well-filmed battle scene. But you bring up the flashback, which is what I would love to dive into. There's so much in there.
Yeah, it started in an interesting way, right? Because we see Dunk's origins. We see him scraping by. We see essentially what drove him in the initial days. And the funny thing about that is there was not much drive. He kind of just wanted to survive, right? But he had somebody with him that had the agency and had that drive, and that's Rafe. Now, Rafe is an interesting
R.I.P.
character.
So
and I love Chloe Leah. It's so great to see her here. She's been in Foundation. She's been in Dune Prophecy. This is somebody who's very impressive. And, it's funny to me, right? Because right before this flashback starts, Lana Baratheon says something very interesting to Baelor. He says, "Mother loved you best, huh? It's a shame. No man fights so fierce as one neglected by his mother."
Exactly.
And Duncan the Tall is clearly somebody who was always waiting for his mother to come home, and she never did.
Yeah.
And what did he do in this episode? He fought fiercely.
But I think he was also referring to Maekar in that scene.
Oh, definitely. 100%.
Like,
because Maekar, as the fourth son, would probably have gotten the least attention. And the funny thing is, Maekar's mother is a Martell.
Yes.
Right? one thing that's very interesting about Daron the Good and his reign, and we can expand on this as well. This idea that after he took the throne, there were a lot of issues because of certain things that his father did, and we could have a whole a whole series on just his father. But Daron II, who is not to be confused with his grandson, Daron the Drunken, who has a dream about Dunk, right? Daron II married Miriam Martell. Now, marrying Martell,
Oberyn's ancestors, just to for folks who don't remember the name Oberyn from the original Game of Thrones.
Yes, the Martells are the ruling house of Dorne.
Exactly, and this is actually how the Martells and Dorne came into the fold of the Seven Kingdoms. They could never be conquered. It just never worked. And based on the people we saw in Game of Thrones, you can tell why. Like, these people don't play games, and they're not easily gotten, right? So Dorne was actually brought into the Seven Kingdoms through marriage. It was through this marriage from Daron II, Baelor Breakspear's father, the current king, to Miriam Martell. And his sons also married outside of the Targaryen family. Now, one could say this is for political reasons to strengthen their relationships. It could also be because at this point, they were starting to see this whole marrying brother and sister thing might not be working out that well for us.
Yeah.
Right? So, Baelor married a Dondarrion, and Maekar married a Dane. And you can tell that, obviously their genes are still there, but there's a lot going on in terms of how they relate with the kingdoms. And you can see it in their children, right? Because Baelor, whose hair is dark, married somebody else whose hair is dark. His child's hair is dark, right? But he's still a Targaryen, right? Yeah. That kind of visually makes people contest what his claim might be, but they are still Targaryens, and they make up for that with the fact that Baelor is honorable. He has been chosen by the people. He's one of the first Targaryen heirs to be somebody that's wanted to rule. And we see that later on with people like Rhaegar, who they say everybody loved, right? Mm-hmm. But, Maekar also, marrying somebody with dark hair. It's interesting how his own sons all kind of came out with hair that's fairly light, except for, I suppose, Daron, his first. Daron's hair is not really quite the pale platinum color. It's more like a dirty blonde, in a sense.
Are you sure that's not just because Baba is drunk all the time?
I thought maybe his hair was just dirty, to be honest. But then I thought about it and I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe this is something where they're trying to make commentary on the genes. So there's a lot happening in this family, and in terms of, their line and who's getting attention, clearly Daron II has a strategy. So with all of the resources focused on making sure Baelor can carry the legacy well, I think actually he would have paid a lot of attention to his other children, because Daron II's epithet was the Good. He's known as Daron the Good. And he really brought the kingdom together in a crazy time, which we're actually going to talk a little bit about today, because these were actually crazy times.
They sure
were. But Maekar
were.
may have felt like his job was thankless, or that his role was thankless in the family, that there weren't a lot of prospects. He was never really expected to inherit all that much.
Nope.
Which is why, there may be, I wonder if there'll be accusations after this, right? People saying he killed the heir to the throne on purpose.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, what chance would he have, right? He's the fourth. It's not, he'd still have to wait. So
he would, yeah.
So it's interesting, right? So this is applying both to Maekar and Dunk, in the sense that a sense of neglect may be driving them because they have everything to live for, and from their perspective, not enough on their side to fight for and with them. So they have to take the reins on their own, right?
Yeah.
And you can actually see that in Dunk right from the beginning. You can see that once he starts to follow Arlan, you can see the hints of it there, that he can fight for something, but he just doesn't have quite the drive to do so. But we know that he wants more from life. He wants to have a life that impacts others in a positive way.
I don't know if it's necessarily drive, right? I think, if we go back to Dunk in King's Landing, I think he was just hoping his mom would come back.
Yeah.
I think he was just a kid hoping his mom would come back. So can we dive into what the situation was where
Please, go ahead.
Dunk was collecting those
yeah, why was
battle
there a guy
trophies.
dying on the beach outside King's Landing?
Okay, so basically that was the aftermath of a battle known as the Red Grass. If you all recall, it was referred to by Dunk when he was trying to get some help from the Dondarrions and the Tyrells and
Battle of the
those
Red Grass
folks.
Field, yeah.
Yes. So that was a very, very that was the decisive battle of a rebellion known as the Blackfyre Rebellion, which you may have heard our boy Egg refer
First
to.
or second? Let's do the chronology. First.
The first
Okay.
Blackfyre
Just for the people,
Rebellion.
let's make sure we have the chronology in there.
Exactly. So this battle happened about, according to book canon, about 13 years before the events of Ashford Tourney. It was the battle where Maker and Baylor actually made their names as the hammer and the anvil.
Because they fought so well together.
Exactly, because basically, Maker held the opposing host and then Baylor came and smashed them.
Baylor did say Maker was strong.
The reason why there was a rebellion to begin with was because of the current king, Daeron's dad. So that was Aegon the Fourth. Or
known as Aegon the
Unworthy.
Yes.
As folks called him. And this guy, it is really not an exaggeration to say he was the worst king ever.
Like, it's insane how somebody can be such an unequivocal
asshole.
Like, it's so wild. Like this.
So who is the worst king, him or the Mad King? Because to me,
I
don't think it's clear.
Honestly,
I don't think it's
for
clear.
Sure. I think it's him. And let me tell you why.
I choose Aegon 4 over Ares 2 any day when we're talking about who's worse. Any day.
Ares 2 only became mad after technically PTSD he had when he was basically captured in Duskendale. But this guy, not only did he have a bunch of children, he had a bunch of bastards, some with his family members. Right.
Which, I mean, it's already messy that there's
so messy
here. But so now there's infidelity within the family.
Within the family. So he has all these kids, right? And he has his first son, Daeron, right, with his sister wife. He has a bunch of bastards. But the most important bastard, and not just with common people, it's also like
highborn people who could have a claim.
Which makes things very complicated. But the most important highborn or bastard in this case is known as Daemon Blackfyre or Daemon Waters at the time.
Not to be confused with, Rhaenyra's uncle
our
husband.
boy Daemon from House of the Dragon, yeah. But Daemon basically embodied all the aspects of Targaryenism. He was very battle ready. He was a warrior. He was
a macho guy. Seen that way by the people as well.
Yeah. Exactly. Aura. He basically had aura.
He had aura. Whereas Daeron was somebody who was more like a diplomat.
Yeah, bookish, a diplomat. So what happened was on his deathbed, guess what this guy does? Oh, before that, he gives the Targaryen, we know how important Valyrian steel is. We know how important house swords are. He gives the house sword
Blackfyre
to Blackfyre. Thank you, Ebube. He gives it to Daemon.
And that is the sword, by the way, that Aegon II is holding in that coronation. That should not have happened.
The second, yeah.
The one that Otto's grandson in House of the Dragon, if you watch season 1, episode 9, that sword he's lifting up, it's that sword. That is a Targaryen family sword.
Yep. Exactly. Which is seen as a big sign of legitimacy. And then to make things worse, he then legitimizes all his bastards on his deathbed because a king has the ability to do so.
Any lord has the ability.
Oh, that's true. Any lord for their own bastard.
Yeah. Because we see Roose Bolton actually does that with Ramsay, right?
That's true.
And people always used to ask Ned Stark why he didn't do it for Jon Snow, but now we know the reason.
Yeah.
He
legitimizes all his bastards and immediately
all hell just broke loose.
Exactly.
Seizes the Iron Throne. There's no need to put it mildly. All hell broke loose.
Yep.
Because now the most unworthy people spawned by literally an even more unworthy guy. They're all fighting with the legitimate people for the throne. It's literally a coup within the family. And it's like, it's so insane, right? You guys didn't learn from the last time that the family fought?
We have a green supporter here, by the way, who doesn't believe in line of
He's
succession.
outnumbered.
Afam, I'm
He's
talking about
outnumbered.
you. But yeah, so basically all of that leads to that that culminates in that, decisive battle, which is a battle on Redgrass Field, which is also where Sir Arlan's nephew and old squire dies.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for letting me lore dump a little bit.
I appreciate it. And actually, I think we see Sir Arlan's nephew's grave next to where he's sleeping. Because we see a little mound of dirt with the small helmet on top of it. I believe that's the grave he dug for his nephew. And then he goes away with the horse. And Dunk sees that. And I think that's where he first realizes, oh, okay, there was someone here. And then he puts it back. And I think it's cool, actually, that they showed Dunk playing with Sir Arlan's tools and weapons the same way Egg did with Dunk's own stuff. Right? That's like a nice little callback. Because it showed a parallel between them. And I like that there was emphasis on their relationship, actually. The relationship between Dunk and Egg throughout this episode, despite everything going on. Egg encouraging him, Egg never ceasing to believe in him. And even the I'll hunt you down with dogs joke. It's fantastic. That was great. And I definitely enjoyed it. But thinking about that battle of the Redgrass Field, though, these guys are essentially grave robbing in order to make their way and get enough money to sail out of town. And I remember watching them like, you guys genuinely think you're going to push that horse? That's a horse, right?
That's a horse, man.
after failing to push the horse, they start pulling the guy under. It's like, whatever version of him is still there, you're like pulling him apart. And then he just dies in the process. It's a little bit gruesome, but it tells you even the aftermath of a battle is gruesome. It's gritty.
Yeah.
It's unsightly, right? But these children are exposed to it, and that is how they have to survive, right? So I like that you call that a decisive battle, Soonen, because it truly was. Because when they take those things that they get from, the horse and that guy's body, which I believe, based on the sigil on his chest, I believe he was afraid.
Yeah, what sigil was that? Was that like Hightower sigil?
Because it looked like that at first, but because of the colors of it, I think it was actually a twin tower. So I think he may have been a Frey.
Frey?
Yeah. But I'm not sure what side of Frey would have been fighting for there.
That's a great question. Afam, did you see what sigil that was?
I didn't notice it.
I looked at it a couple of times and I thought Frey, but maybe it's Hightower and there's just some red and blue on it because it's dirty and bloody. Maybe.
Maybe. I thought it was because the person was a redhead, even like a personal take on a sigil.
Perhaps that could be interesting because people do have personal heraldry, right?
That is true. Yep.
In fact, Daron the drunken, the grandson whose lies contributed to Dunk being in this situation. His personal heraldry is the Targaryen sigil with the dragons facing in the opposite direction. Because he basically sees himself as kind of like, he shouldn't be here, essentially. And he says that a lot in episode 4 when he's talking to Dunk. That dream he has, obviously, he says that he dreamt that Dunk was next to or under a dead dragon. And he came out, but he was fine, but the dragon was not. He said the beast was going to, was something that was so big that its wings would have covered the entire meadow. And Daron, that's why when we first see him in episode 1 at the inn, he tells Dunk to stay away from him because he sees this person as somebody who brings death to the dragon. Now, based on a lot of things that we can't actually quite talk about yet, this could mean a lot of stuff for different people in the Targaryen family, different people who have something or another to do with dragons. But I think it's safe to say that for the context of this episode, that dragon was Baelor. Essentially, Baelor was a dragon who has fallen and died, and Dunk has emerged, not necessarily completely fine, but alive. And the dragon's so big, so imposing, so majestic, has basically fallen and is not going to get up again. So we see Dunk deal with a lot of death in this episode. Of course, right at the end with Baelor's death. But, we see everything that happens to him and Rafe. They're literally just trying to get by. Like I said, the rebellion is quote unquote done because the battle was decisive or stuff like that. So they take stuff from that guy's body and his horse and all that, they exchange it. And then the smith who talks to them essentially says something along the lines of, Daemon's rebellion is over, take your Blackfyre leather elsewhere because it has no worth anymore. And I remember thinking, okay, so we are really getting into this whole thing, right? We actually see what King's Landing is like on the heels of a big battle where people in King's Landing are fighting people with King's Landing, kind of surrounded by allies from other places. It's just like one of those weird things where civil war is quite a thing, isn't it? Because it's self-destruction at its most equipped, in a sense. So now getting into the world of the rebellion, the Smith guy says we'll all be plundering that tomb for a Dragon's Age, and we said this, and so you said that was about 13 years ago, right?
Yeah, that was about 13 years before the events of Ashford, yeah.
Yeah, so that gives us an idea of, Dunk's age, where he's at. Yeah. I think in the books he's probably a bit younger, but here he seems to be kind of in his maybe late 20s.
Yeah.
Would you say?
Mid to late 20s, I would say. In the books, he's definitely not. I don't think he's 20 yet in the books.
Yeah.
He's not, but it seems like he's aged up in the show, probably to early to mid-20s, yeah.
Which is normal for Game of Thrones, right? Like, even in the original series, like, everybody in, like, all of the younger people in Game of Thrones, like, when it starts, like, Robb, Jon, Daenerys, even Bran, like, I think everybody's aged up about 5 years, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because, at the start of the books, Daenerys is about 13, and I think in the show, she starts at like 17 or 18. So, Dunk is going through a lot. Obviously, the whole Rafe thing made me sad, right?
Yeah,
is this a book character?
I think they talk about the orphans he grew up with, but I don't think that dynamic played out the way it did in the show. Well, why was she stealing? She didn't need to steal. She
was kind of overplaying her hand. But
she was
still.
I disagree. I think it comes.
Why did she have to do what she had to do, right?
You're constantly.
No, she didn't need to steal the drink, and that's what put them on their radar. She didn't need to steal that. So she stole that. They went on their radar, and
but imagine constantly being bullied by these gold cloaks. Because, by the way, that's who those guys were. They were gold cloaks.
They were gold cloaks. City
people
Watch, police,
exactly. People who, real life.
Let me not talk.
Listen, arts reflects real life. But I think that's why it's so important, and that's why Sir Arlan intervening made such an impact on Dunk.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the kinds of people with swords and authority that he's used to, right? And as far as Rafe stealing, I think that was her trying to assert herself in a world that continually, beat her and Dunk down. It was her trying to say, no, I have power too. I have agency too.
She didn't.
It turns out
she did it, and it was obviously shown. But you have to consider this is a kid who's been constantly bullied. I get why
I
she
get it
would
too.
do that. Yeah,
and it's hard, right? Because this actually reminds me of a line from One Piece spoken by Trafalgar Law. He says, "The weak do not get to choose how they die," and it's just like this is just one of those things where that's so apparent. She thought she was in control, but there were so many things in that situation she couldn't handle. She could not possibly have understood just how rotten this guy was. He took the knife out. He doesn't even try to beat her. He just is like, yeah, I'm tired of you. I'm just going to cut your throat.
Exactly.
You cut the throat of a child? And then Dunk obviously is inspired by Arlan and what he does. He's grateful to him. Not probably real. Maybe do you think he knew in that moment that Arlan was definitely drunk?
No, but all he saw was someone who literally Arlan came out and said, in the name of the mother,
which is the title of the episode, by the way.
Let that boy be.
Yeah.
I mean, what else is more of a true knight? Like, that is like his everything at that point, you know? Drunk or not, he defended the innocents. I think that was where he could, that was at that point, that was where I think Dunk wanted to become a knight.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, Arlan's lifestyle though. I'm surprised. Do you know, honestly, right? I have to say, I truly, even now, do not understand how this man lived as long as he did. I just don't. Like, everything about his life is insanely unhealthy. Like, he may actually be the oldest regular person we've ever seen in any Game of Thrones show. And this guy was on one every single day. Like, every day. And he lived to be like, what, 60? It's insane. Mm-hmm. Like, we even see him like get so drunk that he collapses, falls asleep, and lands on his dirk. Like, imagine being so drunk that you land on your knife. Like, that would be a crazy way to die. Somehow he survives that, and he just like shakes it off and moves on. It's quite wild.
Do you think some of that is him dealing with the death of his nephew?
Potentially. I thought potentially it might be the case, but then if that was grief and time went on, right? Like, he probably, I mean, unless we're saying he never quite recovered from that.
Yeah, I mean, imagine you I have a niece, I have a nephew, I have nieces and nephews. Imagine taking them, you know, to a battle and them dying and you still being here. Like, imagine the amount of guilt that could put on a person. I think partly that was also what contributed to him intervening in Dunk's case as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point, actually. That's a very good point. Because, I mean, obviously he was a raging bull in that moment. He's fighting with the sword in a very small space. Swords are not for small pieces. I don't know if people know this, but swords are to be used in places where you have a lot more room. And obviously Dunk is fighting for his life even as he's following. I remember that moment where it's like the show is funny and it has interesting timing, but it's realistic, right? Like, he bends down, he starts drinking water that he should not be drinking. And I literally said out loud, don't drink that. And then they immediately transition to him throwing up. Because, don't drink that. It's crazy. And, you know, it tells you how all these things are kind of a cycle, right? Arlan is going through grief because he's lost his nephew. He's hesitant to take someone else under his wing. But then he sees just how tenacious he is, because he follows that guy for a long time. Like, Dunk is following this guy for a long time and he doesn't even acknowledge him. And then he collapses and then he's like, okay, get up. I don't know if that was an interesting test or whatever, but obviously that him saying get up, that was the parallel they used to bring us back into the battle, right?
Yes.
And I remember thinking, like, this fight is such a vain farce. I know I already said this, like, this is all because Arion thinks too highly of himself, right? And I remember, like, just thinking, you know, I was just going through all this, and at some point, it's like, you just have to ask, okay, so I guess there's honor in this somehow. Where is the honor? Like, where is the glory? Where is the beauty? You're talking about legacy. You want to be remembered in the songs because you fought in the Trial of 7. Like, everybody's like, oh, there hasn't been a Trial of 7 in 100 years. Gee, I wonder why. The last Trial of 7, everyone died except the one person that was wrong. Like, it's insane. So now it's just, where do we go from here? Because what has this truly achieved? Look how much has been lost, essentially. And I have to say, Dexter Saul Ansel, we have to shout him out. Because the acting here, oh my God, give that child an Emmy. Give that boy an Emmy. I'm not even playing.
Honestly, give them all Emmys.
Emmy, just Emmy. Like, it's wild. Like, he's shouting, he's saying get up. He doesn't give up on Dunk. And when he's the one who's what, because imagine he wasn't watching as closely as he was. He wouldn't have known that Dunk was actually about to get up that second time. He wouldn't have known. And then he shouts the most high-pitched wait I've ever heard in my life. It's wild. Like he says wait, and then that's when everything actually works. And Arion clearly was not prepared for that. You can actually see on Arion's face that he's tired, he's exasperated. And I'm just like, you know what, man? You don't want to fight? Maybe you shouldn't have started this farce. Maybe you shouldn't have started this conversation.
You should not. Should have minded his goddamn business.
Yeah, you should have minded your business. You don't want to fight, bro? I don't know. Maybe you should have stayed home. I'm just saying. And at that point, and I know Soonen, you would love this, the small folk are cheering for Dunk. They're
you know me, I'm all about that class war, baby.
Like, they're cheering for him. Like, you can tell. Like, these people are normally quiet, but like, they'll be cheering for who they're supposed to cheer for, but like, it's actually working. You can even tell with Red. She's in the audience. She's like, yeah.
And then she looks at her, she's like,
forgetting where she's sitting.
Yeah, she forgot herself a little bit. But also, contrast that, I think one of the things that I love the most about this show is how interactions with Dunk and Egg change people.
Exactly.
They change people.
They make an impact.
Like, exactly. Like, remember when we first meet her and the other sex worker, they're like so dismissive of Dunk. They're like, oh, why you... But like by the end, she's rooting for him. She's cheering for him. I think that's because they see the kindness in him. Like, Dunk is just such a kind person, and this is even shown in the flashback as well. Every single animal that Dunk comes across, he's kind to.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
And I think that shines through. People see him, and against their better judgment, they help him. And I think there's people like that exist in this world, and they should be nurtured because
they should be celebrated.
Yeah, they encourage all of us to be better in very little ways in our own lives.
I agree. Yeah. I still think about, like, I don't know if it was the last episode when the Baratheon Dunk was thanking the Baratheon for Lionel for someone to help, for somebody else bring him to his cause. And it wasn't someone else, it was your boy Aegon. And I'm like, sorry, Egg. Oh, Aegon. Yeah, now we know.
Yeah, now we can say it. Now we can say it.
Dude, this is like some lore, but like when we were talking about like the episodes a little bit before, I kept saying Aegon instead of Egg. Like, I'm fucking up. It was a challenge.
Yeah. Speaking of spoilers, do we want to discuss some of the interesting tactics in terms of... I don't know what they're doing, man. Promoting the show.
I don't know what HBO, Game of Thrones... I don't know what you guys are doing. I have to say, like, just looking at their Instagram, right? They've been posting some stuff. And it's like, I wonder if this has to do with the way the show was marketed and the people that are watching. Like, maybe they want to give it more attention. Maybe they want to link it more to the other shows. But they've been posting a bunch of stuff talking about who the third son of Mecca is. But, I mean, I suppose from their perspective, it's like it's been told to us before. So maybe they can say it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think we can say it.
Yeah, I think we can.
No, we definitely can. Like, we can point out that, Mecca's third son is Aemon Targaryen. And we've known this for a while, obviously. He says it even in Game of Thrones. He's like, my father was Mecca. And, he talks about his father before him. And then he talks about the fact that, he was already away. He was at the Citadel that he came here, but then, they killed my brother and his son, and then they killed the children. That's when he was talking to Jon Snow in, I believe it was season 1, episode 6 of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And that's where Jon says, you're Aemon Targaryen. A Targaryen who went to the Citadel to become a maester, which already, very unique story. From there, joins the Night's Watch and lives out the rest of his days as the last dragon-blooded person alive until Daenerys...
That we knew of at the time.
Yeah, that we knew of at the time. Because it's so funny because in that scene, and I know, like, we're talking about Game of Thrones in a little bit here, but I just think it's beautiful writing from George R. R. Martin, and it's beautiful adaptation from Benioff and Weiss, because in that scene, that's where Aemon tells Jon, "Love is the death of duty." Because Jon is thinking about what to do, where to go, how to handle what has happened to him, and he's like, "Why do I have to stay here? My family is in trouble, you know." And then Aemon's basically like, "Let me tell you about what it means to have your family in trouble, and you're here." And he just explains everything, and Jon gets perspective, right? So now Aemon, as a young person, we haven't met him yet in this show, but he is the older brother of Egg. He's the younger brother of Aerion and Daron. He's the one who's at the Citadel, the one that Raymond said is so useless, they're thinking of making him a maester. Spoiler alert, Raymond, they did make him a maester, but it was his own choice. Now, we can't say too much about him because that will talk about some stuff that's going to happen to Egg later on in life. But I will point out that Aemon is actually the brother who was closest to Egg, both in age and in terms of, I guess,
relationship, yeah.
Just relationship, yeah, you know. And he was the one who gave him the nickname Egg. And I think that was cool. I think that's very cool. That shows what's happening. So, I mean, Egg is essentially Aemon's favorite brother and vice versa. And I think it's interesting for the story and the growth that they want to show us for Egg as a character that they haven't shown us Aemon yet. Obviously, he hasn't appeared in the story narratively, but Egg hasn't talked about him yet. And I think I'm hoping that in future seasons we will see him. You know, I hope that he will show up somehow just so we get a sense of how Egg is going to progress, because let's not forget, this is television, right? And we have a child acting here. He's going to grow. So I wonder how much story they can cover, you know, because there are more Dunk and Egg adventures. We have the 3 books, but George R. R. Martin said that he has already so many things he's put down about other stuff that Dunk and Egg got into. So who knows? Maybe we'll get some more stuff. Maybe we'll see all of that context. But
yeah,
I do find it interesting that HBO is posting that on Instagram and everything. I guess they want people to know. Maybe they feel that link to Game of Thrones will make people want to watch
Game of Thrones,
the show. Yeah. It's fun. I like at the very least that the world is being built in this way. But you know what? Speaking of the internet, people were having a field day with episode 4, right? And honestly, the reactions to what is about to what has happened to Baelor, like, and everything that's about to come from it, I can already see the devastation, man.
Yeah,
like this guy came out on his horse. I mean, I think in the book it says something like, you know, all hope was about to be lost, and then the Black Stallion shows up with a Black Knight on top of him, right? And then he says, "I will take Sir Duncan's side." And did we point this out already, that people thought that was Valar, Baelor's son, because that was his armor he was wearing?
Oh, I guess we had never seen Baelor in armor to that point.
Exactly, because Baelor he's the heir to the throne, he's the hand of the king. They are here on a diplomatic mission. He was not trying to fight. He was not going to enlist he was not going to join the list. He wasn't going to enlist in the tourney. So when people saw that armor, they thought it was Valar, Baelor's son, coming to fight for Dunk, but it was Baelor himself. And he said, "Yeah, I didn't bring any armor because I was not planning to fight. So thankfully, my son lent me his." And I think that's part of the reason he was a bit, maybe he was hampered, you know, on the battlefield, because he was fighting an armor that was smaller than him. And that's actually one of the reasons it took both Raymond and Steely Pate to remove the tight helmet from his head, because he was fighting with armor that was a bit small. So I don't know if that hindered him somehow. He seems to be doing okay. But when they took it off and, you know, half his head was blown off, I was like, bro.
Oh, man, that was so sad.
They went full Game of Thrones gruesome with that one. Like, they did not spare us. It's good that they didn't. But yeah, I mean, I love how they were faithful to the book in that moment. I love how people, you know, watching the show and hadn't read the book, like, I love how they enjoyed that. They were able to feel that moment. They translated it perfectly for television. And the devastation that is coming now, that it just leads to, oh my goodness, man. GRRM.
Actions have consequences. Honor has a cost.
For real. If they could get my nigga Ned Stark, they can get anyone.
Yeah, anyone
Honor
can
has
get
a
it.
cost. Like,
but I mean, it brings up an interesting thing. If I was Aerion, why wouldn't I withdraw my claim immediately I see the hand of the king?
Because he's
join
vain
the
and
other
cruel.
side?
Those are the words that have been used to
Yeah.
describe him. I said this is a vain farce. Imagine how arrogant you have to be. Like, he literally has to have sense beaten into him. for anything to even make sense, right? He's on the verge of death. Because it's so ironic, right, that he wanted to avoid fighting Dunk one-on-one, but that's what ends up happening, and that's what ends up making him yield.
Yeah.
Which actually
He's a
proves, like, the
dumbass.
whole point of the trial of 7, like, let the gods intervene, right? If this is just, let's see who wins. It's like you were trying to change the outcome. The gods intervened when you brought them out from wherever they were chilling. And now the outcome still didn't change. What does that tell you about you?
Yeah.
It's tiresome. I don't know. Tragedy is a given. It's even Rafe dying for nothing. Like, Dunk has gone through so much in this episode, right? Even in the moment where he wins, like, it's just heartbreaking, right? He gets up and he's like two guys had to lift him off the ground. He sees Baelor and somehow he finds the strength to get on his knees and pledge his sword to him. And Baelor accepts. He accepts. Only to die immediately. Like, as he was talking, I was just like, wait, this guy is not okay. Like, the way you could tell. And again, Bertie Carvel, give that guy an Emmy too.
Wow. Now, the Emmy for him.
Everyone wants Grammys.
Everyone deserves an Emmy, man.
Everyone gets an Emmy.
You get an Emmy. You get an Emmy.
Isn't it fantastic to be living in a world again where a Game of Thrones show is, like, truly Emmy worthy in a way that nobody's going to contest? Like, nobody's going to be like, oh, they shouldn't have gotten that. Or this doesn't make sense. Or why is the story doing that?
The way, also just to speak to Baelor's character and also his portrayal by Bertie Carvel, the first thing he does when he comes in is tries to help.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh, don't use oil, do this, I'll get you in my master. Those guys,
oil? Are you crazy?
They are common folk. It's like going to Ajegunle and asking somebody to come and do medicine.
Wow.
They are common folk, man. They're just trying to, like, it's honestly, you know, and another thing is just the way he was speaking. Like, he has so much presence. He doesn't need to raise his voice.
He was so stately.
Oh my God. I think
this is gravitas.
Yeah, imagine
this is why he should have been king.
Yeah. Imagine if he had been king.
If he had become king, we literally would not have the world of Game of Thrones that we have today.
Oh, absolutely not. If he had become king, you wouldn't have had, you know, Aerys being imprisoned in Duskin. Well, you wouldn't have had so many things.
You wouldn't have had
Valar would have probably become king.
Like, literally, you wouldn't have had any of these people. Like, any of the people we know. The Targaryens might not even have
changed everything. That changed everything. Literally everything. I guess we'll never know.
This is so mournful.
I guess we'll never know.
But I think it's interesting as well how Dunk can go through all of the things he's gone through in life, because they've shown us his origins, right? Isn't it funny how he's still a relative optimist? Like, you look at this guy, you think, okay, maybe you were just having fun with Arlan your whole life, you were learning this and that. It was like, nah, this guy went through stuff. And I remember when actually he's asking Rafe, what if the free cities are worse? I actually said out loud, bro, they are. You will become a slave within a week.
There's slavery over there, bro.
No, they actually have slavery over there. You will be, like, you have no power, you have no money. You think your life is bad here. Yes, you're right. It is. I will validate you, but it's worse over there. They will enslave you. Like, you're going to find yourself, you're literally going to find yourself in Volantis wondering, how did I get here? You're going to be in Pentos cleaning somebody's house. Just, yeah, I don't know. And she was like, okay, then we'll go somewhere else. But honestly, where else is there to go? There are other places to go, but you definitely don't want to go there. The thing is, Fleabone is a sad place. It's a very sad place. And I think it's sad that once these kids started to find their agency and do something for themselves, they were immediately broken down by the systems that are supposed to protect them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, let that be a lesson, guys. Even the fun Game of Thrones shows are telling you that are telling you what classes it really is.
Yeah.
But I suppose as we start to close out, my final question for you guys would be, do you think this flashback actually messes up the pace?
Absolutely not.
Like, was it, because I feel like
no.
a lot of people will watch this and think, we're in the middle of this battle. Everything is heated. Just as it's about to get started, we slow down and we watch the origin story of this guy. Like, do you think there's another place they could have put this in the season?
No.
I think
when
this
I saw
was the
that, I
perfect
just went,
place.
cinema.
Cinema.
That was my reaction. Cinema.
Cinema.
Absolute cinema.
Absolute cinema. Because it was just like it flowed so well. Because it's like he's knocked out, then we're like, oh, this is origin story, and then we reach an inflection point where it's like, oh, something happens that just snaps you back to it. Again, I keep saying this is Fleabag, bro. This is Fleabag with swords.
Fleabag with swords. I like that. Fleabag with swords.
Yeah, because the atmosphere right before that moment was set so well, right? There's silence, there's muffled yelling, high-pitched pressure, Dunk not being able to move, all that stuff. Like, there's real emotion, and then, it's kind of tabled for a moment. I think the fact that they could do that in a fairly short runtime, by the way, they could do all that and bring it back. And the flashback serves its purpose to tell us more about Dunk as he's facing the most trying moment of his life. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. I think it gets more than a pass from me, because the episode already started on a high note. It starts with high energy in a sense, because it begins with Baylor talking, as a way to kick things off. It helped the continuity because he was essentially the last person to speak in the previous episode, and we see him riding his horse to move on, and then Dunk follows him. So this conversation is immediately after that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's interesting, right? Because, even with people like Fossaway doing what they've done, like, justice sort of still prevails. And I suppose we should have known, by the way, that he was going to do what he did. He says, whenever I can't find the answers I seek, the answer is always more glory. And I think that's also a call to the Fossaway's words, a taste of glory.
I saw a meme. Someone said, R.I.P. Stefan Fossaway, you would have liked hustle culture and something. You would have liked crypto and hustle culture.
Well, he's alive, right? He's okay.
No, I mean, like, eventually, right?
Oh, I see. True. That's
true. All men must die.
All men must die.
But still, though, like, all men must die, but damn, like, Dunk and Egg got so busy vibing, eating sandwiches, going to live sporting events that they forgot their Game of Thrones.
I think about that sandwich every day.
Bro, the biggest eggs I've ever seen.
Goose eggs, man.
Goose eggs, bro.
Oh wow, man. It's wild. I love how people were reacting to episode 4. Again, I'm just hoping. Here's hoping that things, that people continue to watch, honestly. Like, I want a situation where people actually continue to watch the show. I want a situation where they continue to, figure things out and stick with it and love the characters.
Yeah, I hope for the same. I hope, people at least stick it out till this episode. Because I think a lot of people, got used to the amount of battles towards the later season of Game of Thrones, and that's what they expected. But I think, I love the storytelling, and I think for those who crave that, sticking it out into this episode will hopefully give them the payoff they're looking for.
Honestly, I feel almost the opposite of that, because I felt like what drew people to Game of Thrones initially was not the battles. The big battles didn't come to later on. It was the politics, it was the intrigue, it was the dialogue, it was the conversation.
Game of Thrones at its finest was always about people talking to each other.
Exactly.
Like, some of the best scenes are just people talking to each other in the room.
yeah, if you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. Power is power, bro. There's some lines, bro, from season 1, and this show doesn't have the lines like the bars like that, but I just feel like it's just, again, it's Fleabag with swords, and it's
Yeah.
done so masterfully that this episode was amazing, and the battle was amazing. But what I loved most about the battle wasn't even the battle; it was the way the flashbacks happened within the battle. I think the last episode was probably my favorite overall, but I'm here for all of it. And one more episode to go, and I'm sad, but.
Would you guys say this episode is a better episode than episode 4?
I would personally.
I would.
Sorry, I wouldn't. Sorry, episode 4 is better.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I think I really liked this episode more because it was more dynamic. You know, we were able to see different areas, different locales. We're also able to see the aftermath of a super important battle in this universe. This is the first time we've seen anything related to Redgrass Field or the Blackfyre Rebellion. So as a huge nerd, that is fun for me. And yeah, I think just the storytelling techniques of the flashbacks, the use of Get Up, the bridges that were made, the characterization of Sir Arlan. I wanted to see so much more of him. I mean, I know we've seen a lot of him, if you get what I mean. But I wanted to see more of who he was as a person, and we got that. So this one's definitely number 1 for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And I have to say, shout out to memes. Shout out to memes. Nah, because I love all the people who are online saying that, yeah, you know, the Game of Thrones theme, you know, blending with the music that they made for Night of the Seven Kingdoms as Baelor is coming out, just like absolute cinema. Like, it's beautiful stuff. And you know, I'm sure you guys have seen the meme of like Bad Bunny from the Grammys where his head is like this. And they say that's Makar every time his sons are doing something. Like, that guy doesn't like his sons, does he? Like, I think he's just tired.
He does. He doesn't like them, but he loves them because, I mean, as we can see, he killed his brother for one of them.
Someone said Dunk should not scream at his nephew Egg ever again. That he's the youngest person ever. And that just killed me. Because, yeah, that's true. Dude. Bro, this kid just looks young. He just looks small. So, like,
just small little guy.
It's a testament to the casting, right? Because like, I think everybody actually is well cast. Especially Baelor. Somebody actually even said that Baelor is shaking his head like a diva when he removes the helmet, even though he doesn't have long hair. Oh my God. And there was something you said as well, right? There's like kind of almost a nursery rhyme type of thing that was on the subreddit.
Yeah, shout out to the poster on Reddit. Basically, it was a picture of Dunk and Tanzel saying, "Roses are red. You've got elegant legs. I don't know how to talk to you. Would you like some goose eggs?"
Oh, God, Jesus Christ. Somebody was actually like, "It's always the worst person you know that has a drip." Talking about Raymond Foster, Stefan Fosterway's armor, which, by the way, that armor is crazy. That's just
that armor is so good.
Too hard.
It's so well made. It says, like someone said, the trainer Fosterway bitch had some drip, has some fire.
Drip, man, drip.
Oh my God! It says heartbreaking. That is always the worst person you know.
It's always
the worst person you know. That's the best. That's the best drip. It's so wild. But yeah, honestly. Where do we go from here? Like, I think about Valar, for example, who is now the new heir to the throne, and is probably going to be contested by his uncles if the Targaryens are still that type of family, which they probably are.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of fallout. I don't want to speculate because I'm familiar with the narrative, but yes, there's going to be a lot of fallout, and I'm definitely excited to see, where Dunk and Egg go from here, where Makar goes from here, where Aerion goes from here.
Aerion should be sent to military school.
Should be sent to the wall, really.
That was what I was about to say.
Send it to the wall. That's hilarious.
I mean, he would look good in black, against that blonde hair, but yes.
Can you actually imagine that? Can you imagine being Aemon and you're in the war, and then your older brother who you hate is now here with you for the rest of your life.
Oh, man.
That's just not fair, bro. That's actually not fair.
They all hate him. All his brothers hate him, man.
For real.
Oh my God. Well,
No self-awareness.
yeah. Well, we may as well exercise some self-awareness of our own and just stop here for now. I think this is a pretty good place to cut for now. I'm looking forward to what comes next. I'm looking forward to the fallout as you described it. I'm looking forward to how people react to the season ending this way, because there's so much substance and, you know, it only gets better from here. I wonder how Egg is going to deal with all this stuff, because I think on some level he's going to blame himself, because Egg is, you know, at heart like a responsible person. He is a good kid, as Dunk described him. So yeah, I suppose until next time, we're just gonna have to keep it locked. I don't know. Just one thing I will say about this show is it has heart, and I think that's something that's lacking in a lot of TV that comes out now. I think this show is actually trying to say something. It's trying to represent something, and it's not just trying to be there for the sake of being there. I think they could have handled this in a lot of worse ways. You know, this could have been just a cash grab, and they already had a smaller budget. And I think that, I hope that with the way this season has gone so far, they're going to give them a bigger budget for season 2, and we're going to see things brought to life from the books that we would never have imagined. And actually, you know what? Before we go, I should probably ask, at what point in the book are we? Like, are we 80% through the book now? 70? Like through the first? This is all adapting the first book, right? This season so far.
Yeah. I would say we're about 90%
90.
the first book. Yeah.
Okay, so that means the season, basically the whole season is just going to be book 1. So if they handle it like that, then that's pretty good pacing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how they bring everything else to life. And well, yeah, thank you all so much for listening up until this point. This has been fun. Thank you, Soonen and Afam. This has been heartbreaking. Please listen to everything else we're covering. We're talking about industry twice a week. It's been a blast. And that season is also doing a lot of stuff to my mind and stressing me in ways that I probably shouldn't be stressed. So I suppose until next time, keep your family close and, you know, don't start fights you can't win.